Recent polls show 76% of those surveyed say Chicago would be better off with a different mayor. How do you convince them otherwise?
Brandon Johnson, the good news is we got 48 days before Trump take that oath. In January, ICE gonna come in and get rid of these illegal immigrants. Here's the thing, we gotta get rid of these illegal. So this what's gonna happen to you. You got Cash Patel and Pam Bundy that you're gonna have to deal with sooner than later. Then it's gonna be an audit. Next, it's gonna be an investigation. Then it's gonna be an indictment. Conviction. That's what's going to happen to you.
Take you live to downtown right now because protesters are blocking streets there. This group of protesters speaking out against the Trump administration, against their hard line on immigration.
They say other protesters have been tear gassed, assaulted, etc., and they believe that the president's administration is out of control.
And this is the first time today that we have seen state police here, the sheriff's department here, trying to do anything to keep these protesters from blocking ICE vehicles from coming in and out of this facility.
A lot of people are wearing gas masks there.
Trump's deportation campaign is not for safety, it's for profit. This is yet another example of how this president is militarizing, and this political stunt was carried out, by an unhinged, deranged president.
Chicago's mayor is really losing it. Instead of helping the people who live there, Brandon Johnson is pointing fingers at Trump and ICE like that's going to solve anything. That's like blaming your neighbor when your lights get cut off, but really, you just didn't pay the bill. So here's the problem. While Johnson is screaming about Trump, his approval rating is lower than, the Bears' playoff chances.
Polls show 76% of those surveyed say Chicago would be better off with a different mayor. How do you convince them otherwise?
Well, look, the people of Chicago elected me to invest in people. In every single category, as it relates to investments, they're up. I actually am humbled that the people of Chicago believe in my administration enough to have greater expectations than any other administration. That's what leadership looks like, and I'm humbled to do it.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that there's greater expectations? I don't know where I hear that. Because,
yeah.
and then the feedback instead is that the polling is poor. So how do I don't know how you interpret it that way.
Well, because maybe because I'm a middle child. Maybe it's because I'm a Bears fan. By the way, the Bears are undefeated in 2025, so we're off to a great start.
It doesn't have anything
Here's
to do
what
with...
I'm saying, though.
Go Giants. Yes, I know the Giants are bad too. Let's move on. So it looks like to me he's trying to use Trump as a way to maintain this job. He believes that he's going to be reelected. There is no way this man is going to get reelected. So as he continues to blame Trump for his problems, Chicago remains a dangerous place to live. Let's get into it. So Trump says Chicago is dangerous, and Johnson comes out swinging, calling him deranged, unconscionable, evil.
It is absolutely absurd and appalling that the President of the United States of America would describe the city of Chicago or American cities as enemies from within. This is unconscionable, it's reckless, it's dangerous, and that's why we are forcefully fighting back to defend our democracy and to protect the humanity of every single resident across our city. Trump's deportation campaign, it's not for safety. It's for profit. This is yet another example of how this president is militarizing forces, ultimately with the goal to occupy cities. And this political stunt was carried out, by an unhinged, deranged president. What we saw just a couple of nights ago on the south side of Chicago, where we had masked men destroy property, barge into people's homes in the middle of the night, sticking long guns in the faces of black residents.
Johnson acts like telling Trump off is some kind of big victory, but here's the reality. Trump doesn't need to step foot in Chicago to really win this situation. The headlines already write themselves. Chicago still leads the nation in murders. There's still mass shootings every weekend. And just a couple of weeks ago, there was a concert, a rap concert with an NBA Youngboy or whatever he called. They had to cancel it because the promoters couldn't trust that the city can keep the people safe. They couldn't even have a concert going in Chicago. It's an embarrassment.
The reaction to ICE agents targeting a Venezuelan gang in South Shore have been mixed. Some community leaders tell me, however extreme, the ICE operation was necessary.
The more that we refuse to cooperate with our federal partners in addressing these matters, the more that they're going to take matters into their own hands. Whatever the minor inconveniences that people had to deal with the execution of this warrant will pale in comparison to the relief that they will have knowing that those individuals, those Tren de Aragua gang members from Venezuela are no longer there.
Regardless of your feelings about Trump, Brandon Johnson is a bad mayor. Just look at the approval rating. Mind you, Chicago, or you could say Illinois, is a Democrat state, and he's doing bad with his own base. he will be a one-term mayor. I think at this point, Lori Lightfoot may have been better than he was, and she was awful. So Johnson's whole thing right now is being anti-ICE. He said he won't work with Trump, won't work with federal agents, won't cooperate with deportation raids.
This is an affront on our democracy, and it is further demonstration and a further display of how this president is carrying out. We have to push back and, put forth a real cure to this unconscionable evil that is on display by the president of the United States.
Now listen, you can have debates about immigration policy all day, but I think the job for Mayor Johnson is to protect your city and not pretend it's someone else's issue, like it's someone else's problem. Johnson treats ICE like it's a boogeyman while ignoring the fact that his own police department is understaffed, overworked, and fed up. That's why the cops pulled a lot of the support from him. He's anti-ICE, anti-cop, anti-accountability. The only thing he's pro is excuses. And let's not forget, this is the same guy who called law enforcement a sickness. That tells you exactly where his mindset is. And here's the part the mayor really doesn't want to talk about: all of the cuts. You see, another issue with Chicago is they're out of money. They can't afford certain things. And Johnson wants to do some cuts. Johnson has been directly responsible for pushing cop-related cuts across the city budget. He tried to slash nearly half of the staff from the Office of Constitutional Policing and Reform, the unit that oversees Chicago's court-ordered consent decree with the CPD. He pushed to eliminate hundreds of vacant officer positions to balance his budget, and even pulled recruitment classes at a time when Chicago was already short on cops. He also demanded that the Chicago Police Department come up with nearly $100 million in cuts after blasting them for overspending their $2 billion budget by more than $200 million. Now, some of these proposals he later walked back under immense pressure, but the point is clear. He's comfortable balancing Chicago's financial mess on the backs of police resources. In the end results, officers feel undermined, the residents going to feel abandoned, and Johnson still acts like he's scoring political points by fighting Trump. In reality, he's cutting his own department's legs from underneath him while pretending crime is under control. We have to talk about the poll numbers again. One poll has him at 14% approval rating, which almost 80% disapproval. Another one only showed 26% approval ratings, with 58 disapprove. That is extremely brutal. The people in Chicago do not like this person, but he'll still stand there talking about how Chicago is thriving. Thriving where? The morgue or the budget that's out of control and you don't have enough money to pay for things? How is Chicago thriving? He's not living in the same reality as everyone else.
Black families like mine face the same abuses: constitutional rights ignored, fraudulent actions covered up, and public corruption left unchecked. Mayor Brandon Johnson, you took an oath to uphold the Constitution. Or when you took an oath, was it only intended to fight for the 10th and 14th Amendments regarding illegal aliens?
Now, the thing he talks about Trump is he's doing this for profit. He's a corrupt individual. Again, regardless of your opinions about Trump, Brandon Johnson acts like he is just a choir boy, that he's doing everything above board. I've been covering this mayor for quite some time now, and I'm gonna tell you, he has tons of scandals. Let's talk about them real quick. Mayor Brandon Johnson spent about $30,000 on hair and makeup with the campaign money. I'm gonna repeat, $30,000 on his hair and makeup. I don't get it. Johnson swears it was for event expenses, unless those events meant going to the Grammys. I don't know why he would need to spend that much money on his hair and makeup. There's also some scandals with gifts, a secret stash of luxury gifts in City Hall, handbags, Italian shoes, whiskey bottles. Sounds like a lot of kickbacks, and he didn't have a really good answer to why those things were there. Also, there was a DOJ investigation. His administration accused of racially biased hiring. He basically said it out loud. The Department of Justice literally had to step in and say, yo, this looks pretty shady. Meanwhile, he's accusing Trump of running for-profit raids. Pot, meet kettle. And the reason why so many Chicago residents have a problem with Brandon Johnson is the immigrant spending. Millions poured into housing immigrants while lifelong Chicagoans can't get affordable rent or work in schools. So the residents are pissed off. They're saying, what about us? What about the people who've been here for decades? What happened to them?
Because our mayor is embarrassing us, y'all, around the world. The stupidity to think that you all could come with this type of cut, this type of recommendation, and not come with the true accounting of how much money was spent on these illegals. You all have yet to be transparent with that. That's the biggest financial downfall of the city. Yet, there has not been any type of audit, any type of financial accounting for illegal immigration.
When you talk about the budget and how it can't be balanced and they're losing money, a lot of people are going to point to, did you spend so much money on immigrants you forgot about the rest of the people who live in Chicago? Now, Johnson loves to brag about the homicides being down 30% and shootings are down 35%. Sounds great, except there are people, watchdogs out there, who already caught Chicago police underreporting crimes. They found hundreds of thousands of traffic stops missing from official reports, complaints about force that never matched the paperwork. And the truth is, people still don't feel safe. Because numbers don't matter when the bullets are flying. Chicago still leads big cities in murders. Families still can't walk at night. But Johnson's out there bragging like he just cured cancer, like everything is going fantastic. So why all this yelling about Trump? In my opinion, in terms of Brandon Johnson, is a distraction. Brandon Johnson is so unpopular, he believes if he can continue to make Trump a villain, people will forget or look past his own failures. If Chicago was really thriving, if people really felt safe, if the city was really booming, would Trump even have an opening to call it dangerous? The only reason Trump gets the dunk on Chicago is because Johnson gave him the damn ball. Brandon Johnson can scream about Trump all day long, but it doesn't change reality. The city is still a mess. The scandals are stacking, his numbers are tanking, and this anti-ICE stance isn't making Chicago safer, it's just making him look weak. At this point, Johnson is not just fighting Trump, he's fighting math. And the math says he's heading straight for being a one-term mayor. Brandon Johnson doesn't have the ability to pivot. Brandon Johnson is an ideologue. He is a progressive through and through. He's not going to be able to figure out how to balance some of these situations. That's why so many residents do not agree with him, and that's why the city is in complete chaos. But let me know what you guys think about this story in the comments below. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.